Hey folks, this is the one thing that still blows my mind. One, that it happened, and two, that most people don't know about it, especially if you fall on a certain side of the political spectrum. And that is about what President Obama did to the incoming president and the Hillary Clinton campaign and DNC. So, December 9th, 2016, while Trump was the incoming president, the president-elect, and therefore privy to the presidential daily briefings. Since he's about to be president, as the incoming president, he's kept up to speed with the presidential daily briefings so that he can hit the ground rolling as the new president when it comes time. So, the presidential daily briefing that was to be released on the following day included information that the intelligence community had finished their investigation on whether Trump had colluded with Russia in order to affect the election. And the findings were that he did not collude with Russia. And so this information was going to be in the presidential daily briefing on the following day. But the Obama administration didn't want Trump to see this because it would have been in the presidential daily briefing that Trump would have gotten a copy of. So they held a meeting with DNI James Clapper, CIA Director John Brennan, NSA Advisor Susan Rice, Secretary of State John Kerry, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. And they decided to scrub that information from the presidential daily briefing. And instead, they released the information to, I believe it was the New York Times, but with the opposite conclusion. They released it saying that he did collude with Russia. And so the newspaper printed the story, and then from then on, everybody in the world believed that Trump did collude with Russia when actually the findings were the opposite. And another thing that is crazy that I bet most people don't know, especially if they fall on a certain side of the political spectrum, is that Hillary Clinton and the DNC had to pay fines for their involvement with the Steele dossier, which was the opposition research that the Hillary Clinton campaign and DNC created, where they hired Fusion GPS, who then hired Daniel Steele to create the Steele dossier, which had all of these false allegations against Trump. Sorry, I had to move inside to get away from that wood chipper. So I was talking about the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC, how they hired Fusion GPS to create that Steele dossier, and how the FBI used the false information that was in the Steele dossier in order to get a FISA warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. They had to reapply. I guess the warrant was only good for 90 days, and so they reapplied 4 times to get that FISA warrant. And by the 3rd or 4th time, they knew that the information in the Steele dossier was not true, but they still used that that information to take to the FISA court in order to get the FISA warrant in order to spy on the Trump campaign. And they continued the spying into the Trump presidency. So I bet people don't know that the Hillary campaign and the DNC had to pay fines because of the Steele dossier, not for creating it and using it, but because they misrepresented it as opposition research payments. They put it down as legal services instead of opposition research. And so they had to pay a fine. Sorry, I got interrupted by a phone call, but yeah, the Hillary campaign and the DNC had to pay fines of $113,000 for misreporting what they did with the Steele dossier as legal services when they put it down as opposition research. So that was in March of 2020. 2022, they had to pay fines of $113,000 for misreporting what they did with the Steele dossier, which was opposition research. They put it down as legal services, and so they had to pay fines for that, which is really crazy, because that's the same thing that Trump got his 34 felony counts for falsifying business records, for the payments that he made to his lawyer, Michael Cohen, to reimburse him for the payments that he made to Stormy Daniels, asking her to not talk about what happened between them while he was running for president. So he logged it as he logged the payments as one thing when it should have been another thing, just like the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC did with their payments to Fusion GPS about the Steele dossier that they created against Trump. So they both did the same thing. They both falsified the records. The Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC had to pay a fine of $113,000. Trump was taken to court and found to be guilty of 34 felony accounts, because paying someone to not talk about having sex together is not a felony, but falsifying documents is. And for each entry, they found him guilty of a felony. So that's why there's 34 counts instead of one. But I bet that people didn't know this. And what's really crazy is that the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, the press secretary, what's her name, Caroline Levitt, has talked about this. The DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, released the actual documents and memos that they found with Kash Patel and Don Bongino, the head and deputy director of the FBI, assistant. They've all talked about this as well, but I bet that most of you didn't even hear about it, especially if you only get your news from one side. And this blows my mind that this happened, that Obama, while pretending to have a peaceful transfer of power between him and the incoming President Trump, pretending to have a peaceful transfer of power, all the while undermining his presidency by saying that the election was illegitimate because he had colluded with Russia in order to steal the election, when the intelligence community had actually investigated and found that he did not. But Obama and those heads, Clapper and Brennan, decided to scrub that information from the presidential daily briefing, saying that he did not collude, and then instead released it to the press saying that he did collude. And the Obama administration, Obama and Clapper and Brennan and Rice and Kerry and Lynch and McCabe, were all in on this.